The first impressions for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire are in, and while fans aren't really liking the movie that much, critics on the other hand... Oh, the movie's not out yet? Yeah, but the plot leaked on Twitter, and that's basically the same thing, isn't it? Apparently I can't go on holiday break without either the fanbase thirsting over Shimo and trying to figure out which fun bits they have to draw on their fan art, or the fanbase has just decided that Godzilla x Kong is worth writing off at this point. Now, leaks are not something that are particularly new in this age of Godzilla media. I remember back in 2015, perusing the forums of Toho Kingdom, when this random user, out of seemingly nowhere, came onto one of the threads where we were talking about Shin Godzilla and just started listing off plot points that were going to happen in the movie. They were talking about Tadpole and, Godzilla fighting trains in the third act of the movie. And because it was a fresh account and it was written in fairly broken English, nobody really took it seriously. We were just kind of reading the plot points that they were listing off and thinking, oh, Godzilla gets frozen at the end of the movie? What an imagination this person has. Only for us to show up to the theaters, and within the first few minutes of the movie, Godzilla is a tadpole, and at least for me, it was kind of like, wait a minute. And sure enough, each of the plot points that this random account listed off happened in the movie. Back in 2020, there was the infamous toy convention of some sort, where Mechagodzilla was revealed to appear in Godzilla vs. Kong. Shortly after that, another user on Toho Kingdom popped up under the name of Sayaka, who claimed to be an insider and was involved with the production of Godzilla vs. Kong, who also started listing off some of the bigger plot points of the movie. Not so far as to say, like, Godzilla beats Kong in round 1, Godzilla beats Kong in round 2, da-da-da-da-da. But the hints that they were giving did kind of spoil the plot in a way. I remember Sayaka saying that in the final act of the movie there would be a 1v1, a 2v1, and then a 1v1. And at that point we pretty much all knew what was going to happen at the end of the movie. Now, to everyone's credit, the plot of Godzilla King of the Monsters was pretty well hidden under wraps until the marketing team got their hands on it and just showed everything that the movie had to show in the trailers. And fast forward to 2023, where Godzilla Minus One releases in theaters, and at least in my usual stomping grounds, none of the plot details were really leaked ahead of the movie's release. I always feel that it adds to a movie when you can go in not knowing what's going to happen. I think that the marketing team for Avengers Endgame did that really, really well. The team behind Spider-Man No Way Home, they did pretty well, I would say. That's not to say that there's very much to give away with Godzilla Minus One in terms of plot elements, because I do feel that it is a movie that is carried by the characters and by the performances. So here we are at the very tail end of 2023/beginning of 2024 now. Happy New Year, by the way. And seemingly to avoid another Mechagodzilla 2021 fiasco, Playmates has just decided, we're going to release the product that shows all the characters from the movie. And if you're wondering, is he talking about Shimo? I am talking about Shimo. And I'm talking about another kaiju that showed up on the back of a blind bag clip thing. So yes, there is another kaiju in the movie. If you're able to avoid it, cool. Probably not, because Godzilla Twitter just doesn't care to hide things at all. Which, I get it, it's on official merchandise. I just think that it's kind of funny how, you look at the team behind Marvel with Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, where they had the hashtag Thanos demands your silence, versus the Godzilla fandom where everything is pretty much fair game. I'm not complaining, I'm not saying people shouldn't do it, I'm just making the observation. But among all the tasty new Godzilla x Kong product that's on shelves and is definitely targeted toward kids, for the people who can't seem to grasp that, an alleged leak of the entirety of Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire seemed to prop up online. Now, I haven't seen it, I haven't read it, I'm not looking for it, because, again, I think that you get the most out of these movies when you can view them with a completely blank slate, or at least as close to blank as possible. But apparently this written synopsis of what happens in the movie is enough for some fans just to write it off entirely. And I gotta say that I don't really understand why people are being so quick to dismiss this movie. When someone takes the time to post the entirety of a movie's plot online months in advance of the movie showing, I think it's fair to say that they don't really care about presenting it in its best light. And while the plot and story of a movie forms sort of the backbone of the experience, There are so many other aspects that you just don't get when you read that synopsis online. You don't get the characters and the actors that are portraying them. You don't get the music and the people who are trying to create that atmospheric tone. The work by the CG artists, you know, they're really trying to capture your imagination with having these giant monsters on screen. Or even just the experience of sitting in a theater with a bunch of people that like the same thing as you, and all of you reacting in real time and sort of feeding off each other's energies. Like, if you go back to 10, 15 years, has it been that long? I don't know, it might have been longer actually. The Paranormal Activity movies reigned over the horror genre, and if you go back, those movies aren't particularly scary, they're definitely not groundbreaking, but there was something about being in the theater amongst a whole group of other people like you, all of you scared out of your minds, that really added to the movie-going experience. So all of that is to say, to read a synopsis online and to write the movie off entirely, I think it really does a disservice to everybody's hard work that's going into making this feature film. Now, I think if you have read this plot synopsis and you are not a fan of the direction that the story is going, I am totally with you. You know, not everything is going to be to everyone's taste, and if you decide that, hey, you know, maybe I'm not as excited to see this movie as I previously was, I totally get it, okay? Hot off the heels of Godzilla -1, I think that it's fair to say that there are different flavors of Godzilla out there, and maybe this one just isn't really hitting home for you. If that's your take, I respect it. But if you're one of these folks that's kind of going online and creating sort of like a mob mentality, that's just like calling for Legendary or the folks at Toho to do better, get over yourself. I came across this tweet on my timeline and it really just bothered me and irked me for a couple of reasons. But it's someone claiming that the reason that they're being so vocal about their disdain for the plot synopsis is because they don't want to see the quality of Godzilla products go down, and that they don't want to consume media just for the sake of consuming media. And I really don't like this tweet. It really comes across as, I'm throwing a hissy fit for the betterment of the community. I'm justified in what I'm trying to do because it's going to be a net positive for all of us. I really don't like it when people do annoying or stupid things under the guise of virtue, that they're trying to do everyone else a favor. I totally understand the concern that you don't want the monsterverse to become a Pacific Rim Uprising kind of situation, but again, the movie's not even out yet. So give it a few more months, wait for the movie to come out, see what people think, and then we can take to the streets. It's so wild to me, this idea that the quality of the monsterverse is going down, when clearly Warner Brothers and even Playmates Toys, as you can see, is going all in on it. I don't know if you're familiar with those Battle Roar toys from Godzilla vs. Kong, but I thought those toys were terrible, and I see them just clogging up shelves. But the fact that they're making 3 new ones for this movie, and making them even cooler. Like, the faces move as you push the buttons, like they shift around, like it's like a rubber type material. There's bag clips, there's mystery figure type things, there's the 6-inch, there's the 12-inch, there's battle masks. That gives me a lot of hope that Warner Brothers and Playmates Toys are really confident in this IP, and my hope is that, similar to properties like the Transformers movies, my hope is that this movie doesn't need to do super well at the box office to continue the monsterverse if they can get enough merch sales. Now, someone's gonna listen to me say that and think, oh, like, you're saying the movie doesn't have to be good for it to continue. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, as good of a monster movie as it is, it's still a monster movie. It's not gonna drive everyone to the theaters. Godzilla -1, I think, was one of the best movies of 2023, if not the best movie. But at the end of the day, it's still just a giant monster movie, and not everyone's going to show up for it. In my first video about Godzilla x Kong, my biggest concern I outlined was that there wasn't any actual fighting or action in the trailer. But I'll take this marketing strategy over the King of the Monsters marketing strategy all day, because at least it tells me that the team behind this movie has restraint. There are things that they want you to experience for the first time when you go to that theater. Or at the very least, that's the impression I'm under. We will see what happens when trailer 2 comes out. So what do you hope to see in Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.